Oh, well, oh, I had a super busy morning, and while I was in the middle of everything, I accidentally shut off my phone without saving the recording for this morning. So it is now lunchtime, and the first recording is no longer existing. Oh, I probably need to save these in four different parts and then just string them together, just for safety of uh, data, but it's a lot easier to just do one long recording. But if my phone accidentally shuts off, I lose everything. So I might start splitting these up. I mean, for those of you listening, there will be absolutely no difference. It'll just be uh, different on the editing side, which I don't really edit, so there won't be much of a difference other than dragging and dropping four instead of one and making sure they go in line. Which I guess if I want to do anything in the middle with it, that would be good too. So if I want to add any stings or anything, well, yeah, that might be a good idea. So I guess I'll start saving these as four separate entries every day just to kind of facilitate the conservation of the data. Whew. Well, what y'all missed from this morning was pretty much just me talking a little bit about my weekend and saying it was fun but exhausting because it was the weekend of the 4th of July and Independence Day and all that long weekend. But yeah, this morning I was having to run all over new office for work, testing cables, making sure everything's wired correctly, and so I'm going to be doing most of the afternoon as well. But the AC is apparently not working right now, so I have the AC in my truck on full blast because I was burning up all morning. Oh, I'm gonna have to change into shorts, I think. But shorts and tennis shoes because it is hot. It was in like the 80s in that office. I was drinking a lot of water. These shirts are. I have like some kind of looser golf shirts that I wear to work, and so they're look good because they have a collar, but they're still pretty pretty breathable. But I might bring some shorts and change into those while I'm at the office. But we'll see. Oh, I definitely like doing some physical work for once. It feels good to get up and move around a lot. I know people who work in very physically taxing jobs would rather have my job probably because yeah, it's hard to find that good balance between doing stuff and getting exercise at your job versus having a more sedentary and sitting down. Because if you're standing up all day, that's a pain. But if you're sitting down all day, that's also a pain. And so you really need to just have a mix of the two. For me, it'd be nice to. I feel like my ideal job would be like a mix of driving and walking and stuff like that because I enjoy driving for like 10, 20 minutes at a time. That gives you a good chance to cool off and all, and sit down, but at the same time isn't boring. And then, you know, something walking around would be nice too because you get in a little bit of exercise. Requiring exercise is always easier than scheduling it in your free time. I saw an article about how that some company in like either Japan or China was like uh, tying employee bonuses to how far they could walk every day, like pretty much trying to incentivize their employees to get exercise for health reasons, you know. But people were saying that it's very, uh, oh yeah, it was China because they were saying it was very much like the owner has no idea what his employees go through, or the CEO who implemented that has no idea what his employees go through because uh, the employees have to work 12-hour shifts essentially, and they get some breaks, but yeah, they're working like 12-hour shifts, and so they don't have time to exercise off of work hours and wasn't providing them time during work to exercise. So really only the upper management who had the free time because they didn't work as long of hours was able to exercise. It's kind of an interesting take too, because I know there's an obesity epidemic in a lot of first world nations, but especially in America, has been highlighted a lot that there's a lot of obese people, and I think one of the ideas that is not brought up enough is the fact that our jobs require us to sit down for 8 hours a day, plus if you have overtime, even more. Uh, but they're still exhausting because you're doing so much during that 8 hours that you are mentally and exhausted, and the and then you have to drive and or commute, and so you really just do not have the time and energy left after work to get a good amount of exercise in. And the people who are able to get exercise in are not the ones that need it because they're the ones that have the free time to do all that. And so it's really the people who can afford an unhealthy lifestyle, uh, or can afford to correct an unhealthy lifestyle, have the time and money to do it. Whereas the people who are having that less healthiness, it's due to the restrictions placed on them by their work schedules. And so it's just this kind of feedback loop of negative impacts to your health, makes everything more expensive in terms of health care, but that means you have to work more, which means your health is even worse. I think a lot of the societal problems we have these days can be tied back to long work hours. Because really, humans just are not made for 8-hour work days. And just when you work shorter days, you feel better. You have less stress, you have more time to deal with things. Like, if we allowed for longer work days, it would really increase everybody's well-being, but or shorter work days. That's what I meant. But unfortunately, people are not wanting to do that. That's all the time I got for now. So I will save this portion instead of just pausing, and we'll continue later. Well, that felt like a short lunch, but that's was just as long as normal. I am so glad I have working AC in my truck because the heater in my truck does not work. But I don't mind the freezing temperatures for a few minutes, and I can always put on more layers of gloves and all that. Gloves, scarf, hat, beanie, jacket, thermal underwear. I got plenty to keep me warm, but keeping cool is not as easy because you gotta have something cooling the air down and blowing it on you. You can't just put extra stuff on or take it off. So, which even if I could take off my clothes at work, which I wouldn't do anyway, I don't think it would even help that much. Because oh, there, I don't wear very hot clothes. I mean, I wear jeans, but I brought shorts to change into once I get back to the hot office. So we'll see. I don't know about everybody else because I know my mother-in-law. She is always kind of saying it's too cold, and she always wants to be warmer. And she only says it's too hot once it gets above like 80 something, like 84. Then she says it's getting hot. But oh, my sister-in-law, her daughter is the same way, and so when them two are cooking around the holidays, they just heat up the kitchen and don't turn on the AC because the it's cold outside, and it could be like 40 degrees outside, and they'll have the heater on at 70 or 72 usually, and then the kitchen stove, because they're at that house there's a gas stove. The kitchen stove is on at like, I don't know, like, I think they have like four going usually like three because there's so much food cooking. And that gas stove heats up and it'll be like 83, 84 in there. And they'll just not turn the AC on because they say it'll make the rest of the house too cold. And we're all just like, it's an open plan house. Like the doors are not closed. The kitchen is just as cool as the rest of the house, or just as hot. So, but yeah, I mean it's outdoors. It's not too bad in the 80s because then the breeze comes by and you can sit in the shade, and drink a cold drink, and feel pretty good. But once it gets into the 90s, you need to be splashing in some kind of water to keep it cool, which it'd be nice if we had some kind of water splashing at the office, but I don't think that that would really fly. Got some Gatorade and protein bars, so I should make it through the afternoon in the hot office. I don't think I need the protein bars. I'm not had a pretty good lunch. Definitely need the Gatorade, which I wish the Gatorade didn't have so much sugar in it, because like the salt levels are good for when you need the electrolytes, but the sugar levels are way too high for that. Even. Oh, it looks like they're building another cell tower over here. It is so weird. Going back 5 years ago, everyone was freaking out about 5G. I remember they were saying 5G will give you cancer, 5G will give you COVID, which all of that is just complete ridiculous nonsense. Like, but it is funny that that was going around so much. Oh, but it's weird how people are always kind of scared and suspect of different technology things because there's a trend going around right now where a lot of people are kind of blaming the National Weather Service for a lot of things. And like, there's been a lot of natural disasters happening, and it's increasing because of climate change and uh, getting worse, while at the same time, like, Trump just fired half the National Weather Service employees, and then uh, on top of that, they cut funding like crazy all over the National Weather Service. And then on top of that, this past week, the Pentagon stopped providing weather satellite data to the National Weather Service for certain satellites that help predict hurricanes. So just like the government is destroying the National Weather Service and trying to make people mad at them so they don't get mad when it's destroyed. And it's like working surprisingly well. People just don't seem to understand that if you cut funding, fire all the employees, and don't give them satellite data, they're not going to be able to do very well. Like, every one of those employees had a job for a reason. They weren't just waste. But people don't get that. They would rather blame the people at the end of the line than the people who made all the decisions that put them where they are. But yeah, and then people started like uh, going to the radars, and there was actually a radar that got attacked. Somebody like threw some kind of like homemade explosive at it, or that might have been just a rumor that was going around that that was going to happen. I don't remember, but I know there were legitimate threats of violence against National Weather Service offices and National Weather Service radar installations because people claimed that they were spying on them, and they said that the radars are going to give you diseases, which is just ridiculous. People just So many people don't even try to understand things that they see around them because it doesn't take much knowledge to know that that's not how it works. It just takes a little bit of basic understanding to realize that a radar isn't going to affect your health. But people are more concerned with who's in the presidential seat than whether or not their neighbors are going to die because of budget cuts. And then this past weekend there was just a terrible, terrible flash flood in central Texas that killed a bunch of people, including a lot of young girls from a church camp, and people started blaming the National Weather Service. But the National Weather Service warned it a day beforehand and provided warnings repeatedly throughout the day. They just were not heeded. And a lot of people lost their lives because it just, people don't appreciate the National Weather Service and don't give the weather enough thought and attention because they think, oh, global warming is fake, and oh, climate change isn't real. There's nothing to worry about. Oh, we're safe these days because we always get warnings. Well, you have to look at those warnings and pay attention because the warning doesn't save you unless you act on it. And I'm not trying to blame the people who died because I know a lot of them probably had no idea, have just never been taught to make sure they pay attention to the weather because it's not just how hot it's going to be. Like, there are legitimately deadly conditions, even if it's excessive heat, that you need to pay attention to. And since people don't watch the news as much anymore, it's hard to keep up with the weather if you aren't aware that you need to. And most people just disable the weather app notifications. I know I ignore them most of the time, but I keep a pretty active watch on expected severe weather because I follow multiple storm chasers and other severe weather uh, kind of YouTubers who catalog and send out their own kind of warnings. But it's really just the fault of the government for deliberately cutting the budget to the National Weather Service and not publicizing that it is a public service. Like, they really need to fund essential services like that and make sure that they're taken care of, and just have failed completely and totally on that part. Because the National Weather Service team has just done the best they could, but they've just been cut down at every opportunity so that there's barely anything left to work with. But sorry about the saltiness, but that's all the time we have for now, so continue this later. Ho, ho, ho. I'm back. That was quite the afternoon. Like, I know that running electrical and testing uh, internet cables, running and testing internet and electrical cables. Sorry if there's a lot of noise, I'm burning up. I know it's not that tiring, it's just walking, and I would normally be fine, but it was like 85 plus degrees in that office for, I was in there for 4.5 hours, just having to do all that. I went through 2 bottles of Gatorade and 2 things of water and only peed once. Oh, that'll tell you something about how sweaty and dehydrated I am. Well, not dehydrated actually, because I was uh, fully hydrated, but very, very tired. But, oh, I was saying how I wanted more exercise, and although walking ain't a ton of exercise, it's enough. in that kind of heat indoors with no air when you're not used to it, especially. Because I know there are guys out there doing 8 hour shifts on roofing in this heat. So I ain't got much to complain about, but man, it was still not easy. That's one of those things that uh, I think a lot of people just mess up on is just because you do a more difficult job doesn't mean something ain't hard for somebody else because they're not used to it. Like, I know my job would be hard for people who never did accounting, but oh, it's just with physical labor. A lot of people, physical labor and stress especially, a lot of people like to say that people shouldn't complain if it's not as difficult as somebody else. It's the same old excuse of, why aren't you finishing all your food? There are starving children in Africa. Just because somebody else has it worse than you do does not automatically invalidate any stress or tension you're receiving yourself. Like, it is just, oh, it's a lot to handle, and I knew some people in college who were real bad about that. You'd say you were stressed about a class, and they'd be like, well, I'm taking 5 classes that hard, and I have this much homework, and I haven't slept in this many days, and act like because they have a hard time, you shouldn't be complaining. And that's just not what you should be doing at all. Like, just because your loads are different doesn't mean it's less difficult for somebody else. And it's just kind of one of those things that makes me mad when people try and say that because their job is, because something they've done is difficult, what you do is not valid. That's like telling a woman that she didn't give birth because she was only in labor for 30 minutes. That doesn't mean that it wasn't just as hard. Um, but yeah, it's just a side effect of being a human, I guess, is you kind of want to feel like you're better than others, and if you don't control that urge, it kind of gets out of hand. You end up insulting others or making them feel like they aren't worth anything just because you want to feel better about yourself, and it's just another way of tearing others down to build yourself up, which is really kind of what all bullying comes down to in a way. It's just trying to make yourself feel better by belittling others. And I really think people need to realize more that that's what they're doing in a lot of circumstances. They might not think that what they're doing is hurtful, but they really are often hurtful. And it's not bad to brag about yourself either. It's just if you draw that direct comparison in a way that really, when you draw direct comparisons like that, even if you're not meaning to, you belittle somebody else's work. Because if somebody's saying how proud they were of, drawing their first painting, and you're like, oh, that's great, I love painting, I do it 6 times a week, then they kind of feel like you're trying to one up them in a way. You might be just trying to get involved in their life and be like, yeah, I like that too. Let's bond over a shared experience. It's hard because you have to realize that the way you phrase it matters. And that's something I know I struggle with. And my wife's pointed it out to me before that she'll like talk about how she likes something, and I'll just start kind of getting into it and saying, "Oh yeah, I like that too." And like she'll say something about like she likes leather, and then I'll start saying, "Oh yeah, I like leather too. You know, I've been following this one guy, and he kind of does this, this, and that, and I enjoy watching it. Did you know that this, and this?" And it's kind of she's had to remind me that yeah, being excited about something can make you lose sight of how that makes others feel. And when you just start listing off your own achievements or things to do with a certain field that somebody else just mentioned they have an achievement in, if their achievement is less than yours, then it feels like you're kind of trying to downplay their achievement, even if you're not, and just get excited. It's something you have to be mindful of. And it's something I have a very difficult time remembering is kind of those more social aspects of things like that, I guess, because I'll get excited about something and start talking about it a lot. And if you don't know me, it can come off kind of like I'm mansplaining it or just treating people like they're dumb because I'm really getting into every little detail. But no, I just really get into it. And so, like, I want to talk about every little detail, but some people who don't know me very well think that I'm being kind of braggadocious and belittling them, acting like they don't know what I'm talking about. But I'm not trying to explain it like they're dumb. I'm just really excited about the topic. And and then I know I do that uh, too with like sarcasm. I don't always get when people don't understand sarcasm, and so sometimes that makes people think that I meant something in a way that I didn't. And I might say something like, "Oh," or I can't think of a good example right now, but I just know that I have a hard time kind of gauging when my sarcasm is welcome and when it's being taken the wrong way. But I think a lot of people get it, but it's just some circumstances that it's not come across. Oh, man, I got some bug bites on me, and they're itchy. But I guess I shouldn't scratch them. But it's hard not to, because they itch and you scratch them, it feels better. But I need to. We got the house sprayed for bugs, so there shouldn't be too many at home. But I guess I picked some up at work today because I was walking around in shorts since it was so hot. Oh, well, that's just about all the time I have for today. So thank you to anyone who's listening. Sorry it's a short one, but I'm starting to save these segments individually, and then I'll combine them later so that maybe that'll prevent the loss of so many of them because this ain't the first time it's happened. But anyway, that's all for today.